In our year 2024, it's the second round of Ozicar Formula Ford. It's the hyper-competitive, super close racing Aussie League on iRacing. And round two is a bit of a European tour this season. We've been at Red Bull Ring in Austria. We make our way across Europe to Rudskogen Motorsenter, Norway. Not too far out of the capital, Oslo, as you head north. David Haynes here with Jason Fewens, Jay Kennedy as our producer as we bring you live coverage on Simspeed TV.
Good evening, everybody, and exciting round here tonight. There's going to be plenty of action, big field here tonight, and lots of names that have been familiar with the Aussie car format in the past and making a reappearance here tonight. So there'll be some new contenders, some new voices, and some new people up the front of the field who are battling for some points. So we'll have a look at the track as we zoom in from our satellite feed.
Take a look at that beautiful landscape. Maybe we should be racing the Formula Fjord instead.
It can only get better from there, Dave. Very tight, twisty little track, very, very well suited to these Formula Ford little open wheel cars, and right tight, twisty, complex section right through from turns 4 through to about 12 or 13. So very, very critical to get a line right, carry momentum through those turns to ensure you get a fast lap.
Visually, it's a super exciting track as well. There are some cuttings with exposed rock faces and plenty of exciting switchback corners, some elevation change around here as well. It's a unique little place, and it's awesome to have it on iRacing. Looking at what to expect tonight out of round two of Ozicar Formula Ford. Well, qualifying is just kicking underway at the moment, and then we get into two 13-lap, 20-minute races, both of them with what we would typically term a compulsory pit stop. Now in this case it's just a drive-through to keep everything fair and equal and even and stop the races being decided by just random chance with the pit guns, but there is still some strategy to it. No reverse grids or anything here, just progressive grid, race 1 through to race 2. Two action-packed Formula Ford races coming up, and this is the grid for race number 1. Ewan Baker, the points leader, on pole for round number 2, just 12 thousandths of a second ahead of James Chastanoff. Then we've got Jamie Stovall, Caleb Dawson, Brody Shepherd, and Joshua Horton. Adam Briggs, Simon Clayson, Tom Freer, Sam Chapman, Adrian Duke, and Ben Miles takes us to 12th place on this grid. Jacob Wallmeyer, Douglas Gowans, Dennis Hancock, Nathan Norman, Dylan DeBono, and Warren Henry there in 18th. Dyson Freeman, Sean Doyle, Ira Felberg, John Snell, Jordan Dakin, Ben Wheeler. Sean Doyle's mum definitely cheering him on tonight. No qualifying time from Nathan Verney, the 25th driver on the grid, Jason.
Yeah, quite a mixed-matched grid there with some drivers buried relatively deep. So they've got 13 laps to try and make their way through the field and earn themselves points in race number 1. But you can hear the revs rise in the background as the drivers get ready. The lights are about to go green and they're away. Easy start 2 by 2 as they take their way underneath the bridge for the first time. Looks like nobody gets any real wheel spin, so a good clean start from most of the field.
25 Celsius on the track, but it's cold tyres for everyone as they work their way through the 90-degree left-hander of turn 1. Track swaps back the other way into a long right-hander and into a long straight as well. You start so critical here. Wheels almost interlocked as we go through turn 2, looking at Simon Clayson as he battled side by side, but it's a great launch from Ewan Baker, heading downhill past that exposed rock face and in towards turn number 3 here. He still leads.
Yeah, double right-hander, very, very easy to lock up under brakes, particularly when they're cold here on the opening lap. But it looks like most of the field have made their way through without too much incident. So they're making their way through Sector 2 now, through the tight, twisty section as they make their way back downhill, single file as they all make their way through. A bit of a slide and a bit of a step out there from one of our drivers in the middle of the field, and he's being collected.
It was Horton who lost the rear grip, spun out sideways, broadside across the racetrack with 15 cars still to come through that part of the track, and he did indeed get collected. So there's a few damaged cars. Overall, pretty tidy for cold tyres in the first race start of the night in Ozicar Formula Ford. No changes up front there with Ewan Baker still leading, but you can see a few other drivers going through the field, like Adam Briggs. I think he's the driver who might have drilled Horton and picked up some damage. He's off the track here, slow, and letting the whole rest of the field through.
Yeah, obviously not the ideal way he planned on starting his race, but you can see a couple of drivers on the opening lap. Adrian Duke there making his way into the pit lane, the first of our pit contenders or drive-through recipients here tonight. So a couple of cars in the background opting to do the same, just get that out of the way so they can focus on the remaining 12 laps to greet the checkered flag.
James Chastanoff in second. He's got Ewan Baker now 7/10 of a second up the road from him and maybe needs to worry about what's happening behind him. Jamie Stovall in third, Caleb Dawson in fourth. The top four really getting into their stride here at Rudskogen Motorsenter, getting the tyres up to temperature and also seeing a couple of cars from around them take that compulsory pit stop early. Always an element of strategy across both of the races. Stovall looks super confident through this series of switchbacks and S's towards the end of the first sector.
Yeah, Stovall was one of the contenders at Red Bull Ring just 2 weeks ago, one of the many SSR cars that were fighting for position up the front. We'll just have to jump on board the Ozicar.net replay and have a look at this Horton incident on the opening lap. Running very wide through there, looking for the cut back, and there's every chance there was that little bit of contact there between the cars, and bang, he's just a passenger sitting like a stunned mullet in the middle of the track.
I think it's Clayson in the McLaren Tribute livery that gets him there as well. So a few cars damaged. Might have just been a little bit of suspension damage for Briggs. Clayson also picking up the nose damage. Leaders mostly still staying out here. Pit entry is on the outside there. You see a few cars diving the long way around to the pit entry, but it's a really good race start for Baker. We think it's always super close and competitive up the front of the field. It's tough to break away out of that slipstream zone. It looks like championship leader Ewan Baker is managing it here in the first of two races tonight.
Yeah, it definitely looks like he's out to set a dominant performance and take a stranglehold on the early championship lead. Just a helicopter view or a drone view there, and you can see that contact that did make the gearbox of Horton there as the back end of the car stepped around and found himself facing the wrong direction really quickly.
Once again, taking a look at Jamie Stovall in third place. Caleb Dawson just behind him in fourth. Track limits here. It's got to be careful when there's too much paved runoff because it's so tempting, but you can never really get away with using all of it. And then Brody Shepherd and Tom Freer, that's fifth and sixth here, still with a view of the race leaders, maybe thinking that they can go long into this race or do something different strategy-wise to what the leaders are currently doing. Plenty of elevation around here. This might be the flattest part of Norway, full stop.
Yeah, there's a couple of blind corners here with this elevation change that the drivers have to contend with as these two battle side by side. Looks like Freer's going to go the long way around and fall back into line behind the 55 car there of Brody Shepherd, using all the track and some as they make their way back onto the straight to complete lap number 3.
This is Sean Doyle showing us how the pit entry runs. It's unrestricted speed around the outside of that tyre barrier until you get to those yellow cones. Then you're down to the pit lane speed limit, 50 kilometers an hour through here at Rudskogen Motorsenter. So one of the slower pit lanes would have been 80 at the Red Bull Ring last round 2 weeks ago. So it will feel like a bit of a crawl through there, but you get to skip part of turn 1 as part of the pit lane exit. So it giveth and it taketh.
Yeah, and it's also quite a short pit lane as well in the scheme of things, particularly compared to Red Bull where we were a fortnight ago. So it's not a total loss, and everybody's got to suffer the same fate at some point throughout this course of race 1 and 2. So sometimes you just have to grit it, take the bit between your teeth and take it on the chin and just get back out there and continue racing.
Feisty battle for the podium shaping up here with James Chastanoff under yet more pressure from Jamie Stovall with Caleb Dawson in behind. This trio, though, not being caught by Tom Freer or Brody Shepherd with the little battling that they have had behind. Not how you envision your race playing out when you start from second place. You want to battle with the leader, battle for that win. That's not what's happening right now for Chastanoff. These guys are still running long into this race. 13 laps, and they're only just starting lap 5 now. Compulsory pit stop window will close just at the start of that final lap.
So the leader's setting a pretty good pace. Ewan Baker just confirming that with setting another fastest lap of the race. Looks like the group behind him are pretty well going at the same pace. They're not really dropping away behind. We'll jump on board Adam Briggs and have a look back at Ira Felberg in the 72 car. Makes his way through that change of direction through turns 1 and 2. Just losing a little bit of time there on the change of direction. Briggs is pulling another car length away.
For reasons that befuddle me, you've got a painted center line down there as you head then through the cuttings towards 3 and 4 here. A lot of speed on the way in, trying to get the car to rotate nicely and then carry your speed back up the hill, and then it's sort of left, right through this part of the lap right here. Other battles throughout the field, you've got Dylan DeBono against Sam Chapman, you've got Sean Doyle against Warren Henry, Benjamin Wheeler against Simon Clayson. This is just inside of the top 10 with DeBono in 9th and Chapman just behind in 10th.
Yeah, tight little twisty track, producing some really good racing. Not a lot of draft opportunity here. The longest section on the track's probably the downhill run into turn number 3, but you've really got to get a good run out of turn 2 to make that really work. So you can see Ewan Baker there making his gap out to 1.8 seconds. So doing that on pure speed, raw speed at the moment.
Stovall pitting from 3rd, so didn't fancy trying to overtake James Chastanoff instead. He's trying to undercut through the pit lane. There's a few that will follow him in as well. Brody Shepherd and Dyson Freeman to 3 in the lane at the moment, approaching the halfway point of race number 1. Tom Freer sets the fastest lap of the race, so he's found some speed where he's at. Chapman also pretty quick at the moment, trying to find this way past Dylan DeBono. Like you said, plenty of slipstream here, fast run downhill, but it's into a very wide open corner, not a big braking zone, and that makes the passing difficult into 3.
Yeah, it's just really got to be hard on the brakes, but also got to be quite careful and not overcook it, because the change of direction under brakes really unsettles the car, and you've got to turn it back in for that good, really important climb back up the hill. So it's one of the hardest parts of the circuit. It looks quite simple on screen, but while you've got the pressure from all the cars behind, it's easy to overcook it there, and just a little bit of a brake lock-up and you can find yourself in all sorts of trouble.
So there must have been a mistake from James Chastanoff, because he's no longer in 2nd. He's down in 4th under pressure, and this is how, just a little wide at 3, losing the rear and all of his speed at 4, and then losing positions likewise. And if he knows about it, Jamie Stovall will be very, very pleased, because that means the undercut for 2nd place, potentially for the race win, is on. This is where Chastanoff's resumed, amongst Jacob Woolmeyer and some others. Caleb Dawson pitting in now as well.
So the car's on track at the moment. There's a little bit of a gap as we see Dylan DeBono make his way through pit lane to take his compulsory transit. But we're back on board looking at the little battle between James Chastanoff, sitting back down the field a little bit further than where he probably found himself a lap ago.
So Woolmeyer trying to hone in on Chastanoff. There's a little bit of lapped traffic behind him. That might be Jordan Dakin or Dennis Hancock. Oh, it's Joshua Horton. Okay, and it's not much helping Jacob Woolmeyer at the moment to have Joshua Horton that close behind.
So after that little spin, Chastanoff actually dropped one position on track, and that was to Tom Freer. So that will change once he takes his compulsory pit lane transit, because I'm sure he lost a lot more time than what it actually shows on track at the moment. But Jacob Woolmeyer doing a really good job up from 13th position where he started the race into P4 at the moment.
You're left with just your top 8 yet to pit. Highest running car that has stopped, Jamie Stovall, then Caleb Dawson, then Brody Shepherd. But Ewan Baker, immense pace at the moment out front, currently holding the fastest lap of the race and being mighty, mighty consistent with it as well. Here's Nathan Norman for a view at what the pit lane transit looks like.
Back on board, Ewan Baker, he has led this from the moment the lights went green and the racing got underway. His massive gap at the moment out to 5.3 seconds, so not even a car in the background. He's contending with some lap traffic. Oh, very, very sideways there from Tom Freer, getting some style points as he makes his way down through turn number 3.
Yeah, certainly looking like he's reached the limit of grip and optimized that corner and maybe stepped a little bit too far. Having a look at it from onboard, how busy are the hands in a situation like this? Over the crest, downhill, need to slow up a little bit, pitch it in. Oh, he's lost that early doors going into turn number 3.
Certainly would have got his attention the way the back end stepped out there and just snapped around, but he did a really, really good job to hold it. So potentially losing a little bit of time, but most importantly holding track position So I would suggest he may just look at cooling the tyres down, making a pit lane transit, getting that out of the way so we can just have a clean run home.
You'd certainly think about it. We saw from Baker's perspective, he's starting to catch a little bit of traffic potentially. So if Stovald or any of those, or Freer, can stop a little earlier, then maybe there's an undercut on if Ewan Baker does get caught up amidst some of that traffic. There's Freer in the lane. This is Ewan Baker, the race leader. You can see a couple of cars out front, that's for sure.
Yeah, the cars in front will be getting the blue flag to let them know there is a faster car coming through, so they'll do their best not to impede Baker as he makes his way back up the hill, but there is 2 cars to contend with. But Dennis Hancock doing a really good job there to get out the way. Slips, pops back in behind the leader there in the slipstream, and Douglas Gowans is the next driver on the cards that Baker has to contend with. But looking back on the main straight into turn 1, a bit of a battle further back in the field.
Sean Doyle goes down the inside of Warren Henry. Dyson Freeman and Ben Miles behind are also for position. Is that cutting the track maybe a little bit for Ben Miles there? Is he going to have to back out of that one, or is he all good, all in the clear? 4-way fight for position here. All drivers having made their drive-through, made their compulsory stop. Doyle leads away, but it's Henry mainly under pressure from Dyson Freeman, what I see here.
Yeah, this is a little battle right to the drop of the checkered flag. Like you said, all these drivers have made their compulsory pit lane transit, so it's a bit of a mind game at the moment, trying to put a bit of pressure on the car in front, force them into a bit of a mistake. That's probably the easiest way to get around here because there isn't a lot of passing opportunities. Being so tight and a lot of switchbacks, it's really, really hard to get a pass done.
Here's Chastanoff and Wallmeyer in the lane, and they're being followed in by Adam Briggs. So that just leaves Ewan Baker, Sam Chapman, and Ira Felberg yet to transit the lane in race number 1. Baker staying out there long in spite of the traffic. Very interesting move. He's got the pace, so what he needs to not let him down in this race so that he can take the win is the strategy call.
So you can see Chastanoff there making the exit through pit lane, and it was Tom Freer and Jamie Stovard in the foreground that made the pass through turn number 2. So that really highlights just how much ground that Chastanoff potentially lost by having that little spin earlier in the race.
Dawson with a slowdown at the moment. He's got a furled black flag, so he's cut the track somewhere, and horrible timing for that, because out of the pit lane, hot onto his heels, comes James Chastanoff, comes Jacob Wallmeyer, and in fact even comes Brodie Shepherd. So this will be an almighty stoush here for the final spots on the podium.
Yeah, we'll be waiting for the slow-down penalty to be cleared. Doing his best to try and get rid of it at the moment without actually losing too many positions. Chastanoff looking for a way around, looking for the outside, which isn't going to get it done. So he goes for a bit of a cutback, but the door is shut very well by Sam Chapman there, holding the position in P2.
There's a Chastanoff-shaped hole, but he's not all the way clear. And now it's another left-hander, and they make a bit of contact. The wheels intermingle. Both of them keep on racing. It's all right-handers to see out the lap here. Wallmeyer and Brodie Shepherd trying to get involved as well. Any other takers on the pit lane this time around? 4-way fight down the pit straight, heading towards turn number 1. Chopping and changing lanes is Caleb Dawson, but Chastanoff still thinks he can get down the inside of turn 1. He's got to get all the way down the inside of 1 before the track goes right again at 2, and he chops across the nose. Both of them are off the road. Chastanoff's in front, and I see a meatball flag for Joshua Horton, but I see no slowdown penalties for any of the drivers on screen.
Yeah, I did say that was Sam Chapman, but clearly it was Caleb Dawson there with his hands full. Chastanoff very, very lucky not to get a penalty through there as they make their way through a big break lockup of smoke there. One of the drivers in front having a little bit of trouble down the downhill section of the track, but looks like Chastanoff making a little bit of daylight between him and the battling cars behind at the moment, with 2.5 laps remaining in race number 1.
Wallmeyer tried to go round the outside of turns 3 and 4. He stuck it out to get to the inside here of this left-hander, but then Circuit swaps back the other way. A replay, bottom of the screen. What happened to Horton? Bit of contact on the way into turn 3, spun him into one of the few pieces of unprotected Armco. Race leader Ewan Baker going through the lane right now had a very, very handy lead before all of this. Sam Chapman's also in, and we'll expect to see Ira Felberg. The field will be quote-unquote cleansed, and they can just race all the way to the end. I think Ewan Baker's looking like he might have this in the bag at the moment. There is some insane racing elsewhere through the field.
Yeah, Horton very, very hard into the fence there. You saw in that replay, but Ewan Baker back out now as well. So he has some clear track in front of him, which will be handy and good to know as we reach the final stages of race number 1. Jamie Stovall 2.5 seconds behind the race leader, so it is a bit of a gap to wheel in late in the race, particularly as Ewan Baker set a number of fastest laps over the course of the 12 laps so far.
So this is James Chastanoff, Caleb Dawson, Jacob Woolmeyer, Brody Shepherd, Adrian Duke has joined the party. It's quite a battle here with 2 laps left to run in this race. Progressive grid as well from race 1 into race 2. You can't afford to crash out of this, but you definitely want to get every position you can, start higher in race number 2, as well as scoring more points. As Woolmeyer trying to get his nose underneath Caleb Dawson yet again. It's not happening. James Chastanoff's driving away from the both of them. Woolmeyer is being incredibly persistent in the blue Formula Ford.
Yeah, looking very, very racy, and he definitely wants to get that job done. He's only got a lap and a little bit now to get it done before Dawson will be greeted with the checkered flag and just sitting outside the top 5. So if they're going to invert the top 10, these drivers will pretty well start where they're going to finish this race here. But we'll see how it all unfolds in 1.5 minutes time as the leader goes round, gets the white flag, and Ira Felberg making his compulsory pit lane transit to tick that box done.
So all these drivers go up 1 position now. Ewan Baker took the white flag as the leader by 3 seconds. Tom Freer comfortably in 3rd, but as for all the positions behind that, you tell me, I've got no idea. Woolmeyer still trying to cross back over under, try to get a better exit out of the end of these sections than Caleb Dawson. He's right at his gearboxes, slightly uphill, and then drops down towards turn 3. And he's thinking maybe somewhere else in the lap I can give this a go if I can make Dawson defend.
Yeah, Brody Shepherd sitting about half a second back off this little battle. He will be watching it all unfold in front of him. So the slightest of little mistakes from either of these 2 drivers will elevate Brody up another couple of positions, a couple of freebies with half a lap to go. This could be the opportunity that Woolmeyer has been looking for, sticking his nose down the inside, trying to force the issue. But Caleb Dawson doing a really good job of holding strong.
Woolmeyer trying to get tight to the inside line through some of those twisty bits there to get alongside Caleb Dawson. Dawson had him covered. Bottom of your screen, race leader Ewan Baker, championship leader, pole sitter here for race 1 of Ozicar Formula Ford at Rudskogen Motorsenter, and he's going to come out of the final corner, the checkered flag, to extend his championship lead and start race 2 on pole position. Perfect form for Ewan Baker, perfect strategy, and amazing Formula Ford race pace. Stovall and Freer will complete that podium. Chastanoff is going to hold on to that 4th, and then 5th, 6th, 7th, all within 1 breath here at the end of race number 1.
Yeah, pretty exciting stuff right to the drop of the checkered flag, and it looks like a couple of drivers there just making their way through as Barney waves it vigorously on the left-hand side. But it was the Ewan Baker show from start to finish tonight. Led every single lap that was on offer, whole 13 of them. So very dominant performance from the Kiwi.
And talking back to the drop of that checkered flag, he set the fastest lap of the race on that final lap. So he must have held back just a little bit of performance, cooled off the tyres a tiny bit for one almighty go at it on the final lap. He basically takes all of the chocolates from race number 1 and will start on pole for race number 2. Last drivers to take the checkered flag on the lead lap will be Douglas Gowans and Dennis Hancock by the looks of things. Here is Dennis Hancock through the final part of the lap. Jordan Dakin likewise, except Dakin is not a lap down. He's just behind Dennis Hancock in 21st there. It's 22nd, 23rd, and 24th that were a lap down. Let's look at the results then from race number 1. 13 laps of Rudskogen Motorsenter for Ozicar Formula Ford. Ewan Baker with the win from Jamie Stovall, Tom Freer. The excitement was back here with James Chastanoff, Caleb Dawson, Jacob Woolmeyer, Brody Shepherd, Adrian Duke, Sam Chapman, and Nathan Norman. And then we had Adam Briggs, Sean Doyle, Dyson Freeman, Ben Miles, Warren Henry, Ira Felberg, Simon Clayson, John Snell, Douglas Gowans, and Jordan Dakin on the lead lap. Off the lead lap in race number 1 was not Dennis Hancock apparently, but Dylan DeBono, Joshua Horton, Ben Wheeler, and Nathan O'Burney. Tangok had a penalty on the last lap, didn't serve it. It's added time, but not dropped him off the lead lap. So he's 2 minutes behind on a 1.5 minute lap, but still on the lead lap. Interesting for Dennis Hancock, to say the least. Looking then at what this season of Ozicar Formula Ford has in store for us. We started at Red Bull Ring a couple of weeks ago, here now at Rudskogen Motorsenter for another regular round of Ozicar Formula Ford. They go to the 3-race sprint format at Circuit Spa-Francorchamps for round 3, Enduro at Monza combined, and then Jerez and Brands Hatch for this 6-round season. We're talking about the championship standings as well. Very close after round 1. And Ewan Baker will have extended on this since then with the race 1 win. But it was mighty close after Red Bull Ring between himself, James Chastanoff, Jamie Stovall, Sam Chapman, Brodie Shepherd, the drivers in contention at the moment. We'll take a little break here on Simspeed TV. When we come back, it's race number 2 of Ozicar Formula Ford from Rudskogen.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
We're back at Rudskogen for race 2 of Ozicar Formula Ford, round 2 of this new season in this new year. Ozicar is supported by Sim Racing Leagues, Locked On Lads, Prestige Trophy Badge and Engraving, and in support of the No Social Hate campaign. Race 1 was wall-to-wall action across 13 laps. What do we expect? More of the same out of race number 2, Jason?
Oh, I reckon race number 1 will be a pretty good indication of how race number 2 will go. Very dominant performance from our pole sitter Ewan Baker in race number 1. I do just want to take this opportunity to apologise. He is, in fact, a Scot racing for the Kiwi Sim Racing team. I did call him a Kiwi before, but he might be a surrogate Kiwi, but deep down in his blood and bone, he is a Scot. So I just wanted to clarify that, because otherwise you'll have my guts for garters.
You can take the boy out of the Scot. Can't take the Scot out of the boy, I believe. Exactly the same format, exactly the same length for race number 2. Drivers starting this race as they finished race number 1. It means for the second time in 2 races, Ewan Baker will be on the pole position. But he'll be joined on that front row by Jamie Stovall. Then we've got Tom Freer, James Chastanoff, Caleb Dawson, Jacob Wallmeyer. Not too many surprises here. Brodie Shepherd in 7th. Adrian Duke picked up some spots across race number 1. and so he'll start out at 8th. And then Sam Chapman, Nathan Norman, Adam Briggs, and Sean Doyle, the top 12. Call out a few other names starting deeper in the field than what we think their pace suggests. I put to you that Simon Clayson, Jordan Dakin, perhaps Dennis Hancock, but definitely also Josh Horton had a bit more speed than where they're starting race number 2 after their race number 1. We'll keep an eye on if they can move through the field in 13 laps, what the pit strategy might look like. Now the drivers know what they know after race number 1. We're ready to get going. It's Ewan Baker on pole who have the inside for turn number 1. We get racing, and it is a great jump out of 4th place from James Chasseneuve. He drops the clutch just perfect, already alongside 3rd place Tom Freer to try to challenge in towards turn 1, but no one's going to challenge Ewan Baker as he has a beautiful getaway and a beautiful lead.
Yeah, a couple of cars running wide through the change of direction, just making sure they give the inside car plenty of room through turn number 2. Looks like nobody has made contact with each other, and everybody has a clean run down the hill to turn number 3. We did see some brake lockups and quite a bit of action. Horton found himself in the fence on the left-hand side at this part of the circuit in race number 1. So he'll be pretty wary not to repeat that same performance here in race number 2. Making their way back up the hill through the infield section. Again, it is a big centipede of Formula Ford 1600s as they make their way left, right, left through to this section here, double left before they start making their way back down the hill again. This is our closest on-track action side by side out of turn number 5.
Watching Jacob Wallmeyer side by side with Tom Freer and Brodie Shepherd in that section of the track there. So battling happening all through the field. James Chasseneuve and Caleb Dawson each picking up spots into 3rd and 4th. As Freer's getaway wasn't so great, Chasseneuve did challenge him and he's back into 5th right now. Ewan Baker bolting away once more. Here's Adrian Duke as he tries to get back up to where he started in this race. Started 8th on the grid, running 10th at the moment, heading straight for pit entry. If you have a not so great opening lap of the race, oh so tempting to just get that pit stop out of the way early and do something different.
Yeah, Adrian Duke was the first one to pit in race number 1, and he was looking for some clean track to avoid getting caught up in any potential carnage. So he's obviously replicating that same strategy here in race number 2 as well. So a couple of other drivers there followed him into pit lane with the same philosophy. But looking a bit further back in the field, side-by-side action from Dylan DeBono in the 0-3 car. He'll find himself on the outside down here to turn number 3 and isn't going to work. Big brake lock-up and plenty of smoke.
Yep, Sam Chapman is way off in turn 3. He's not alone. It's been one of the most challenging corners of the lap. You can do that all by yourself if you get in too hot, but it's so easy as well to tangle wheels with someone else in that part of the track. So Joshua Horton, he was 8 positions gained. He's lost a bit of time through there as well, and now he's back to 19th. Here's how it happened for Sam Chapman on his way in. I think he's just turned in with the outside tyres on the curb and then elected a new pope, and Horton's done similar.
Yeah, it almost looks like a bit of a sympathy spin there from Horton. Just saw there was a bit of a party happening on the outside of turn number 3. Thought he'd drop it in and see what all the action was about, but in the process dropping back a heap of positions on track as well. So he'll probably go home after this round tonight just having nightmares of what could have been at turn number 3.
So not a great opening lap from Freer when he went from 3rd to 5th on the grid. He's also going to stop early and make that pit lane transit. Ewan Baker is right on song once again in race number 2. 1.5 second lead over this battle. James Chasseneuve, Jamie Stovall, Caleb Dawson, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th at the moment. Ooh, can you smell those Norwegian pines?
Full of sap and the sweet smell of car freshener. That's pretty well the best way to describe what the ambient scent that the Norwegian pines will be sending off at the moment. But SSR doing a very dominant start to the season 2 weeks ago at Red Bull Ring. Not quite having the same impact and race success here tonight in round number 2. They're spread right through the field at the moment, so a bit of an up and down from them tonight, but I'm sure they'll bounce back as the season progresses.
You don't know where to look at this stage of the race. There are battles every single which way. Jacob Wallmeyer here with Adam Briggs looking one way, looking the other, getting a good exit behind Ben Miles, Dyson Freeman, Simon Clayson placing one of those drivers who got collected lap 1, race 1, trying to move through the field as the night goes on. Side by side off the final corner, more drivers heading for the pit lane, like Jamie Stovall, like Clayson, so hot on the pit entry. Here's Briggs, maybe finally getting his move on Wallmeyer. He's nose up, down the inside in towards turn number 1, and now Sam Chapman's made a bigger dog's breakfast of that pit entry, and he's going to have to Austin Powers his way through it.
Yeah, Briggs through that last sector of the lap, very, very strong, taking the outside line through that long right-hand sweeper onto the straight. Wallmeyer did try and squeeze him on the exit onto the pit straight, but Briggs just had that wheel in place and managed to carry that momentum down into turn number 1, getting the job done. So Wallmeyer tucked in underneath the rear gearbox now. He'll be looking to regain that position and earn back some bragging rights at the moment. But as they make their way up through the flip-flop section, again, all the drivers are relatively clean. You can see a heap of different lines from the drivers depending on what their preferred line is through that change of direction.
So some of the biggest movers so far, of course, tough to gauge with some of the pit stops that we've seen, but 13 positions gained from Dylan DeBono, 7 from Adam Briggs, who've seen make a couple of moves here now in towards the top 5, 11 gained by Joshua Horton. So there are a few drivers. Race 1 put them deep in the field. They've gained some back. Sam Chapman, we're going to have a look at his pit entry. So maybe he got spooked a little bit by what happened in front, but then, Adrian Duke and Sam Chapman together, finding every single bit of Armco and dirt and gravel in the pit entry.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if the coffee liveried Adrian Duke didn't get a pit lane penalty for an unsafe pit entry there. It looked like he was very, very late on the decision to dive into pit lane.
Different tracks enforce it, different levels of stringency, so you've just got to know the track, got to practice it, know how much you can get, how much you can cut across on the pit entry, whether it's no tyres across the line or not the centre line of the car over the line. This is Caleb Dawson under pressure from Adam Briggs, still moving forward, thinking a podium could be on the cards through the sequence of switchbacks here, trying to take the wider, smoother line at the moment. Chastanov's gotten away. Ewan Baker with a 2-second lead, comfortable and manageable. Briggs looking down the inside from the short chute into a big braking zone at the tight corner here. That's a good move.
Yeah, Briggs fastest man on track at the moment, and that move just shows exactly highlights to the speed that he does have. Jordan Dakin there facing the wrong way, doing a pretty good job to avoid oncoming traffic. So he gets back up and carries some momentum. So bit of a spin and a loosey-goosey. We'll just have a look at the Ozicar.net replay and see how that all unfolded, taking some excessive track limits there through the change of directions. No wonder the car got a bit sideways and a bit unsought.
The graphic has his name spelt differently than the sim does. Interesting. Adam Briggs, massive pace though, into the 126's first driver to do so, remembering that the fastest lap of race 1 was a 126.5, so getting pretty close to that, no doubt. Track is slightly warmer now though than in race number 1. We're up to 28 Celsius on track compared to 25. Doesn't feel like a massive difference, but there's definitely some tenths of a second in that.
Just see Wallmeyer there exploring the track limits, looking for grip, and out on the left-hand side of turn number 3, he won't find any except plenty of marbles out there. But he gets pulls the car back onto the racing line, continues on his way without losing too much time to the cars in front. But Adam Briggs is the man on focus at the moment. He is doing a pretty good job sitting in P3, still holding on to that fastest lap of the race. But Ewan Baker is our race leader, 2.5 seconds out in front. So he's got no direct threat from the bloke in P2, James Chastanoff, at the moment.
There's Briggs going for pit entry, so trying to do something different here. He looks like he's practiced that pit entry 1 or 2 times. Good line on the way to the commitment cones. Mighty sized yellow cones those are as well. 3 pints and you'd have to take one home.
So the leader's on lap 7 of 13 here, race number 2. We're past the halfway point here in the Ozicar Formula Ford 1600 round number 2. Sean Doyle is the driver we're on board with at the moment. Looking back powered by coffee, Adrian Duke driver in the 60. Duke getting plenty of speed as they make their way underneath the Worth Bridge to complete another lap. Not quite able to get the move done there, but closing up on the tailpipe under brakes.
This is one of the higher placed battles of drivers that have stopped already. Duke, of course, not getting the perfect pit entry, but not losing too much time to it. Didn't get any repairs after that, so he's still driving it around after knocking the wheels just a little bit on the pit entry. Doesn't seem to be slowing him down greatly, as he has caught and put pressure on Sean Doyle here.
The race leader, Ewan Baker's retaken the fastest lap of the race. The leader out in front, extending his lead to P2. Looks like car number 8, Caleb Dawson there from 7.5 Simsport, conducting his pit lane transit, making sure he doesn't exceed the pit speed limit as he passes those 2 yellow cones. We jump on board Ben Miles there. He's taking liberty, dropping those wheels inside the white line, then on the outside of the white line there. Doris trying to carry as much maximum RPM and speed as they make their way past one of the lap traffic there on the right hand side.
Yeah, it must be Benjamin Wheeler. In that case, Tom Freer picks up the fastest lap of the race, so all change there. Adam Briggs rejoined the race just behind Jamie Stovald, who's since lost 2 positions. That's this battle here, Briggs, Dawson, Stovald. So now Stovald trying to get back at Caleb Dawson, side by side through 3 and 4. Tight line, a little bit of a slide on there, but a decent line overall from Stovald, but goes back the other way. And maybe there's a little bit of contact. There's definitely a bit of contact there, and it sends Caleb Dawson up into the air. He lands back on his wheels, checks up Brody Shepherd and Sean Doyle as another train of battling cars. Even Simon Clayson gets through. That's been very, very costly for Caleb Dawson because that front right suspension is cactus.
Yeah, wheel alignment there looking well and truly out of sorts. Just not quite leaving the room he probably needed to there for the Synergy Sim racing driver there who was on his inside. So had he left probably another half a car width, he would have had the inside for the double left-hander, but as a result, contact was made, and I'm sure the stewards will make of that what they will at the conclusion of the race, but it doesn't do poor old Caleb Dawson any favours here with still 4 laps remaining on race number 2.
Works out well, though, for Adam Briggs as he's able to leave them behind, able to cut through the field quickly after stopping as early as he did. Out of the lane comes Nathan Norman into 11th, just ahead of Brody Shepherd, Sean Doyle, Adrian Duke, Simon Clayson. That whole battle group heading from turn 2 down towards turn 3. Just your top 7 that haven't stopped now. Tom Freer, best placed car to have made the pit lane transit in 8th and a second and a half ahead of Adam Briggs.
Yeah, good little battle here. This is looking a bit further back in the field, as you can see by the relative on the left-hand side of your screen. It's Nathan Norman, Brody Shepherd, then Adrian Duke, just looking like he's serving a slowdown penalty getting off the racing line and losing a heap of momentum.
He's still got it, hasn't cleared it just yet, so that is super costly for Adrian Duke, using too much of the track, or maybe too much of the not track. Run on pit lane here for Jacob Woolmeyer, Dyson Freeman, and Ben Miles. This is likely to let Tom Freer, Adam Briggs, Jamie Stovald, those drivers through in the battle for the podium. Zabono and Horton are running long. They haven't stopped yet. Neither has Ewan Baker or James Chastanoff.
So Ewan Baker pitted at the end of lap 11 in race number 1, so it looks like he is going to try and replicate that same philosophy and that same strategy that got him the race win. So as the old saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So Ewan Baker there probably looking to duplicate race number 1 with another race number 2 win. We'll find out in a short 3-lap time. But meanwhile, this is Jacob Woolmeyer and Jamie Stovall going into turn number 3. We've seen going side by side through here doesn't work. Stovall just drops in behind looks for the change of direction switchback as they make their way up the hill. But Woolmeyer doing just enough to keep his nose in front.
Yeah, Woolmeyer just exiting pit lane this lap and right into battle with Jamie Stovall. Again, this is all potentially for a podium place, depending on how long James Chastanov's pit stop takes, I think. I don't think they've got Ewan Baker covered off, but they could be pretty close to Chastanov. Certainly battling for plenty of points here. Woolmeyer and Stovall, what could end up being third, fourth, or fifth. Full black flag, not a furled black flag for Josh Horton at the moment. So that's for either having a slowdown and not serving it, or for unsafe pit entry or exit. So that's really going to hurt. Driver who's had a lot of speed could be unsafe pit entry just based on where he is at the moment, or speeding on pit entry. Either of those two. Very, very painful for Josh Horton's race. He's had a lot of pace across both races. Neither of them have worked out cleanly, which I'm sure is immensely, immensely frustrating. Briggs still flying. A 1:26.498 is not only the fastest lap of this race, it's the fastest lap that we have seen all night to this point.
Yeah, taking a rather unorthodox approach to turn number 3 there, looking for every opportunity to carry some speed through. That wasn't the way he's going to do it, so losing a little bit of time. I wouldn't suggest he's going to improve his fastest lap time after that little debacle.
Inseparable, Jacob Woolmeyer and Jamie Stovall. Stovall right at Woolmeyer's gearbox at the moment. The last laps have... the battling's maybe cost him a little bit of time. Ewan Baker through the lane. Chastanov carries on, does he? Or is he also following in? No, he carries on. So Chastanov looking to go one lap longer than Ewan Baker, who's through the pit lane right now. Dylan Zabono, then the only other car that would need to pit. He's heading in, so it's just Chastanov. Oh, DeBono! Another driver spinning out on pit entry and hitting the Armco.
Yeah, he'll be kicking himself after that. The car will be damaged. It's missing the front end. It's losing a heap of time, and it could have been tails of what could have been for DeBono after quite an impressive drive for the first 12 laps, but just a little bit of lack of concentration, carrying a bit too much speed there into the pit lane, and you saw for yourself just how things unfolded for him. So disappointing. I'm sure he'll be frustrated to look like he's going to park it up, get himself a fresh repair, go out and put it back in the transporter.
Yeah, he's out of here, unfortunately. Simplifies things up front, though. It's a battle between Tom Freer and James Chastanov for second place at the moment. Not sure either of them are catching Ewan Baker after that great pit stop. And then this battle goes on forever and shows what Rudskogen is about. Lots of places where you can look to go up, under, switch back, try to follow closely through some of the twisty sections, something that the Formula Ford can do very well. Simon Clayson has been around. Now Ben Miles is around.
Yeah, just getting a little bit eager on the throttle there. It looked like one of the drivers there going around the outside, but I don't think there was actually any contact made. It was just poor old Ben there just getting a little bit happy on the accelerator pedal.
There's Chastanov in the lane. Ewan Baker starts the final lap in the race lead. Here's Tom Freer at speed through turns 1 and 2. He's going to be side by side, but just ahead of James Chastanov. This is the final steps on the podium. Adam Briggs is at speed behind them as well, with 1 lap left in this race. And then Jacob Woolmeyer and Jamie Stovall, of course, still fighting. Brody Shepherd, Tyson Freeman, Nathan Norman and Adrian Duke completing the top 10 at the moment. Sean Doyle's unfortunately been around through turns 1 and 2. Dennis Hancock runs a bit deep in towards turn 1 as Simon Clayson is now behind him. And this is second and third. Freer looking decent in second place here. Briggs with the fastest lap of the race, but not much time to catch these other drivers on the last lap.
Yeah, it's going to take a mistake from Chastanov in P3 to get Adam Briggs up onto the podium here in the second race with only a handful of corners to go. So Chastanov tucked underneath the tailpipe of Tom Freer and not close enough to really challenge for that position. So it's leader makes his way through the final corner for the final time and is going to be greeted with the checkered flag for the second time tonight.
It's not quite absolute perfection from Ewan Baker, but it's 2 race wins, 2 pole positions, and an extended championship lead. Only one of 2 fastest laps by the looks of things. Freer and Chastanov completing the podium. Adam Briggs, 7 positions gained throughout the race to finish 4th. And then Warmeyer holding off Jamie Stovall, Brody Shepherd and Dyson Freeman across the checkered flag. It looks like the biggest gainer in this race is going to be Douglas Gowans, 9 positions gained, as Warren Henry and Adrian Duke cross the line just under a 1/10 of a second apart.
So we focus on the leader and the race winner for race number 1 and race number 2. Ewan Baker off to do some celebrationary donuts there on turn number 3 in front of the virtual crowd as he does his best to try and light up the rear tyres from the little underpowered Formula Ford 1600. But he'd be very, very happy with that. More importantly, getting the race wins was extending that championship lead like you just addressed to, Dave. So taking a very strong hold on what is the Ozicar European Tour here. So race 2, round number 2, done and dusted as we look at our championship results after round number 2.
Race 2 results are in. Ewan Baker with another win. Tom Freer, James Chastanoff, Adam Briggs. Great fight all the way to the end. Different strategies between them. Briggs' early stop, was it the right way to go? We'll never know, but he had great pace as far as getting the fastest lap of the race. And Jacob Warmeyer, Jamie Stovall, Brody Shepherd, Dyson Freeman, Nathan Norman and Douglas Gowans. It's the top 10 there. Adrian Duke in 11th. Sean Doyle, Ben Miles, Simon Clayson, Dennis Hancock, John Snell, Sam Chapman, Ira Felberg, Jordan Dakin, and Caleb Dawson. Top 20. Other cars on the lead lap was just Warren Henry. Ben Wheeler a lap down. Dylan DeBono parking it after an unsuccessful pit entry. Joshua Horton also hoping to forget about Rudskogen after 2 races tonight. Nathan Verney says he joined the session, but I'm not racing, sorry, recovering from surgery. Thought I'd give you the full grid time to go through the names. Thank you, Nathan Verney. Best of luck, best of wishes with your recovery from surgery then. We got some drivers who are going to stop by and have a chat with us after 2 exciting races from Rudskogen. Jason Fewens.
Yeah, we welcome into the commentary box. Who have we got here with us at the moment? We've got nobody. We'll just try James Chastanoff up. He is our 3rd place getter in our feature race tonight, race number 2, and a bit of an up and down night for yourself there, James.
Yeah, not too bad considering mistakes I made. So I'm actually pretty happy with where I ended up.
So race number 2 definitely a lot more successful than race number 1. We had a bit of an incident where we were facing the wrong way, or more importantly facing the wall there quite early in race number 1, but you managed to put your head down and regroup and come back with at least a position that put yourself in good stead for race number 2.
Yeah, exactly. It was good to have a battle with Caleb actually. I haven't actually raced against him, so yeah, it was good to have a bit of battle with him. So just keeping things interesting for the broadcast, I suppose. It's probably the only excuse I can probably pull out of my hat for that. But yeah, a little bit annoying to make a mistake when I was just trying to keep it straight the whole time. It was really my focus. I wasn't trying to push it too hard, but yeah, just sort of caught myself out going a bit too late and had a little bit of a slide.
Well, you did highlight in qualifying, you definitely had the speed on your side, starting off the front row of the grid in race number 1, but it didn't take long for you and Baker to create a bit of a gap, and then you had your mirrors full with a handful of cars biting at your heels there. So definitely had your work cut out for you in race number 1, but race number 2 also didn't go too bad. You obviously managed to bring home a podium and a heap of points there towards your championship campaign.
Yeah, exactly. You can't be upset with the 4th and 3rd. It's pretty consistent. So, yeah, pretty happy with how it went. I don't know how I've sort of done what I did in qualifying. I think it was a little bit of a... maybe the other guys made a bit of a mistake with the colder tyres. But, yeah, like Tom and Briggsy were pretty quick once the tyres were up to temp. They seemed to be pretty good where Ewan was just better all round. So I think I had a little bit of better speed on the colder tyres. I think it's just the experience of driving these cars. It's something that you just pick up over time. So that's probably something that the other guys will pick up as well. But yeah, and once the tyres are up to temperature, it's more of a consistent sort of feel of the car. So yeah, I think I'm probably lacking a little bit of speed to those guys. Yeah, when the tyres are sort of up to temperature.
So I presume you had enjoyed the track, tight, twisty little circuit that we're at tonight. But in a fortnight's time, we're off down to Belgium, and we're into a sprint race format where we're going to the fast-flowing circuit that is Spa.
Yeah, it's a strange decision for a sprint race. I guess the races are like 2 laps long each one. So yeah, normally you'd think a longer track you put the endurance on it, but yeah, it should be pretty interesting. It's yeah, good.
Hey, they
good
found an even
track.
longer track for the endurance. Don't worry.
Oh, I'm aware of that. So. But still, it's yeah, for a sprint race, Spa's pretty tricky. It's going to be interesting to see what happens once they do the reverse grid going down into Eau Rouge and then even Lacombe after the long straight. That's going to be pretty interesting to see all the guys who are faster trying to get back through into the front on that reverse grid race. By the way, guys, it is actually reverse grid next round. The other 2 rounds haven't been, just so you guys are aware.
Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting because you're always going to have to get yourself a pit buddy. So you stay in a slipstream, because if you find yourself just trundling around by yourself without any real help, it could be the difference between making or breaking a good result at a circuit like that.
I'm not sure there is a pit stop in those races, the sprint ones. Might have to double check that, but yeah, I'm sure you guys have got that covered, so I'll take your word for it now.
We'll find out sooner rather than later. So, anyway, do you want to do a shout out to any of your teammates, to your sponsors, or any of your mass supporters that are over on your YouTube channel?
Yeah, thanks to Vernie. He's still recovering from a bit of surgery, so he is actually racing in this. He still can't quite make it back yet. Hopefully he's back for next week. But yeah, speedy recovery to him. Thanks to all the other guys who are tuning in and watching the stream as well with me, especially over the weekend as well with the Daytona 24, and for Roy jumping in and doing a bit of spotting for me as well. Really helps out last 2 rounds. With no one else to talk to, it kind of gets a bit lonely in the Discord. So yeah, it's definitely sad sitting in a Discord on your own, just logged in, just yeah, blinking away talking to yourself. So thanks, Roy, for jumping in, and then thanks to you guys, and hopefully you invite me back after all the shade I've just thrown at you.
All right, on that note, we'll let our P3 race finisher for race number 2 let him go tonight. And Dave, I believe you've been for a bit of a wander, and you may have our second podium step holder in your presence.
Yep, 3rd place in race number 1, 2nd in race number 2, twice on the podium. Congrats, Tom Freer.
Yeah, thank you. That was yeah, I can't believe how fun that track was. Would have been good if I'd stopped bowling wides at the bottom of the hill and getting slowdowns, but yeah, it was pretty good night of racing, and obviously, you know, Mr. Baker was just a class above.
Looking like this season, instead of there being sort of, you know, 4 or 5 guys to beat, everyone inside of the top 10 looks super racy, super competitive. I mean, Baker, Chastano for yourself, and then Briggs and others, a lot of drivers sort of inside of the top 10 who could be a chance on their day.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the great thing about this car is it's very close timing, pretty much at every circuit, and like you said, you can pretty much start 10th and have a chance at winning. It's that competitive. But yeah, I think there's more guys down the field who could win as well. It's just, you know, obviously the crazy starts, and once the field spreads out, it sort of nulls the competition a little bit. But yeah, that top, you know, 10 cars, really, with even 3-4 laps to go, you can still win.
Thoughts on pit strategies, early stops, late stops, stops when you see some traffic, stops if someone's battling you too hard? What's the go?
It's hard to tell. It sort of depends what the field spread is like. Obviously you wouldn't pit early if you're going to get traffic, but sometimes it works out better than others. I think the early pit stop does give you an ability to actually get that out of the way while the tyres are still reaching a peak temperature. So I actually don't think it's the worst idea, because I feel like once you pit, you come out and you got to get your grips with pretty much old warm tyres, which could be faster, but yeah, the early stop's good. If you get it out of the way, you can just focus on the driving and be in a rhythm for a longer period of time to the end.
Good consistent points haul. Plenty of racing still to come as we start to get into some of the more interesting circuits and race formats. We'll see you at Spa.
Thank you very much. Thanks for doing the broadcast and for a great night.
Twice on the podium, Tom Freer. Who else we got? Jamie Stovald's stopped by. He was on the podium in race number 1, Jason.
That was all.
Yeah, welcome, Jamie. Bit of an up and down night for you, but end of the day, you've great result in race number 1 to kickstart round number 2 tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to get a podium finally. I felt like I was going to get one last week, but kind of got involved in a few things, and can actually get a podium when I keep it clean.
Yeah, well, race number 1 started out of P3, increased your finishing position there to the second step of the podium, and that put you in a pretty good position off the front row for race number 2 as well. So plenty of speed on your side over the course of the night. You come to grips with the track relatively easy?
Yes and no. I think we did our first laps a few minutes before because we'd been doing Daytona laps all week, but it's not an easy track, especially in these things. You just get a bit of confidence and then you push a bit too hard and you're off the track, nearly spinning. So very fun though.
Yeah, we did see a couple of drivers come unstuck. One of your teammate, in fact, in the other Synergy Sim Racing, in the form of Tom Freer, come a little bit using track limits and then some at turn number 3. You didn't have any issues down the bottom of the hill by chance?
Yeah. The first lap was the same thing. Went wide, got to slow down. Very, very tricky corner, but I seemed to be fairly quick through there.
Yeah, well, sometimes the old adage of slow in, fast out, and I think that's one of the corners where it really highlights the importance of carrying some of that mid-corner speed to get the drive back up the hill. But still, after a strong performance in round number 1, you've backed it up with another points haul here tonight, round number 2. So we're off to Spa in a fortnight's time. So is that a track that suits your driving style?
Maybe. I think it's going to be very interesting in these cars because everyone's just going to be within a few seconds of each other with long straights and just a big drafting pack. So it's just going to be sort of using your brain instead of actually having pure pace. So that should be interesting. I think anyone could win it.
Yeah, well, I think it's going to be, like you said, it's going to be one of those races where the drivers really have to watch what's happening in front of them, but also what's happening in their mirrors with the draft opportunity from a number of cars behind. So no doubt, halfway point of the season, it's going to be an absolute belter and plenty of action-packed on track for all our viewers. So tune in a fortnight's time as we travel down and visit the world-famous Spa circuit. But anyway, tonight, great result from yourself, a 2nd and a 6th, so a good points haul towards your championship campaign as well. So it's not even at the halfway point, you're already putting in a pretty strong performance here on the Ozicar Formula Ford Series.
Yeah, thank you. Looking forward to the rest of it.
All right, Dave, that's Jamie. Sounded like pretty happy with his result there tonight, and so we should be. Another strong performance from the SSR Synergy Sim Racing driver. So over to you, and pretty well a class act from the moment the lights went green. I think you've got our race 1 and race 2 winner in your sights.
Yes, indeed. Great Scott goes back to back. Ewan Baker, 2 race wins, extending the championship lead here at Rudskogen.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I mean, I know, just in the zone. Love this track round with this car. It's just amazing. Yeah, can't ask for more.
Decent scenery to go with it, but in race number 1, there was a couple laps towards the end there where you were staring at a little bit of lapped traffic while some of your rivals had stopped early.
Yeah, I was a bit of a conundrum because I was thinking I'll do a pit early, but then I thought, well, if it's lap traffic, surely they'll play ball and not race me too hard, so I shouldn't lose too much time. And I was in quite a good rhythm because I thought if I pit, then I'll be back in the mid pack, and it's going to be a lot more intense in terms of racing. And it initially worked fine. I got past one of them, and then they decided braking wasn't particularly fun, so they dove in at one of the corners and ran up the back of me. Very lucky not to spin or get any damage from that. So, yeah, wipe the sweat off the brow, keep going, thank my lucky stars, and yeah, it worked out all right in the end.
Now the tracks just keep on growing from here, because we go from 3.5 kilometers of Rudskogen to 7 kilometers of Spa to 10 kilometers of Monza combined.
Yeah, it's going to completely change the dynamic of this race. I mean, you just kind of see from Red Bull Ring last round to this round, the whole sort of dynamic and the way the cars follow is completely different. You know, you're able to get into a rhythm here, put down fast laps and sort of crack on, whereas at Red Bull Ring, you were in a pack. You couldn't do anything. You couldn't escape from the draft, and it was a lot more hectic all the way through. So especially Spa, with it being a sprint round and I think reverse grids involved as well, it's going to be absolutely mental. I think just surviving with wheels attached and touching the ground will be a big part of that. And the Monza race, that's just going to be one long train of cars. It's going to be absolutely incredible to watch, but it'll be a high heart rate for all the drivers, I think.
Dance for our entertainment, you circus animals. That's what how it might end up playing out. Big handful of new drivers this season in Ozicar Formula Ford, so we're quite well accustomed to seeing you and James Chastain try to battle it out. But you're watching your mirrors and watching the relatives and the strategy of a handful of new guys this season as well.
Yeah, a bit of an invasion, isn't it? Yeah, so coming back after a couple of seasons off, I thought I knew who I was going to be racing, so knew where I was going to be positioned roughly in the field. And then, these guys come in and just sort of shake that up a bit. But, I have to give them props, because they're not only blisteringly fast, but they're also very clean, very good to race with. And, it's just fantastic for the league, fantastic for the racing. And I really do look forward to the battles we're going to have in the future rounds.
You can look forward to it. We can look forward to it. Best of luck with the pub. Best of luck with the future racing, and we'll see you at Spa.
Oh, thank you very much.
Great to hear from 4 drivers who all stood on the podium after 2 races of Ozicar Formula Ford at Rudskogen Motorsenter, but only one of them stood on the top step. 2 wins from 2 races for Ewan Baker as he extends his championship lead. Still 4 very exciting rounds of Ozicar Formula Ford to come on Simspeed TV. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you're watching, because we'll catch you in 2 weeks' time for the next round from Spa. Myself, David Haynes, Jason Fewens, and Jay Kennedy look forward to seeing you then.